China is under growing fire over what human rights groups are calling deep abuses, a series of internment camps, re-education courses, brainwashing, all taking place in prison-like environments. Upwards of 1 million people might be affected by this story. At the heart of it, a group known as the Uyghurs. They are Muslims who have a different language, culture, and religion than the rest of China. They live primarily in this part of the country, Xinjiang, in northwestern China. Now some Uyghur Americans are speaking up about what is going on at great risk to themselves and to their families back home. China, by the way, says these are job retraining centers and not prisons. Let's bring in Rushan Abbas. She is an American Uyghur activist. She's joining us today from Virginia. Good to have you with us, and thank you for taking the time to come on CTV.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for your attention.
What is happening in Xinjiang? What is happening to the Uyghurs?
Well, the Chinese government is persecuting the Uyghur people for years. Since Mao's occupation of East Turkestan in 1949, the government has tried hard to destroy the Uyghur culture and religion. Uyghurs have been persecuted under the labels of nationalists, counter-revolutionaries, or separatists for years. But the following 9/11 tragedy, the Communist China rebranded the effort as war on terrorism. Today, the entire population of East Turkestan has become the victim of Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative as the final solution for the China's dream of Made in China 2025.
You mentioned Xi Jinping, who, of course, is the president of China, and we certainly have seen a crackdown on human rights and freedom of the press in China, such as it was. I want to ask you as well about your own family, Rushan, because my understanding is you spoke about what's going on at a Washington think tank, and within a week or so, your aunt and your sister disappeared from their homes in northwestern China.
Yes, I spoke at one of the think tanks in Washington, D.C. on September 5th. And then 6 days later, I talked about the situation of those concentration camps. And then 6 days later, my 56-year-old sister and my 64-year-old aunt were taken. So 6 days after my speech.
Do you know where they are? Have you heard anything from them?
No, I don't know where they are. They just disappeared.
We know human rights groups have been documenting what is going on, talking about these camps, how they are being built out. Satellite imagery shows their existence. China continues to say, no, 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 this is about helping people to learn to speak the language. It's about helping them to get better jobs. It's about, quote unquote, civilizing the region of China in order to better integrate it with the modern world. What do you make of what we've heard from China on this story?
Well, if what China is saying is the truth, then I should know where my sister and where my aunts are. If they are just being re-educated or so-called being trained in the vocational training places, they shouldn't be uprooted from their families and they kept in barbed wire black holes, basically. And also, they cannot communicate with their family members, and the family members don't know anything about what's going on. So
you mentioned some of the arguments that China has made as well about trying to deal with so-called unrest in that part of the country, whether it's separatism, whether it's terrorism. Let me ask you whether there's any sort of credibility to those claims.
Of course, Radio Free Asia is doing extended reports, and the independent NGOs are releasing reports. So, and plus we have like millions of people in abroad. Every one of them has somebody in those concentration camps. The Uyghur people in diaspora, they are speaking and they are talking about the situation and the concentration camps. And we have people who are being released from those concentration camps. They are coming forward and speaking about the conditions of the camps.
What do you think China is trying to do here, ultimately, Rushan?
Well, the occupied land of East Turkestan lives in the strategic heart of this Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative, which is the blueprint for the world domination as China's ambition as the global superpower.
And they certainly are an economic superpower even now. What more can the world do? I mean, are people paying attention to this story?
We plead the world leaders, politicians, and the 57 member states of the Organization for Islamic Cooperation, NGOs and civil societies to work together and to take steps to release those innocent Uyghur people in China's black hole today. The world leaders must act strongly on the sanction on the Chinese officials who are responsible for those severe violations of the international laws under the provision of the Global Magnitsky Act.
Rushan, I appreciate you taking some time to get the word out for our viewers here in Canada, and thank you for making time as well to make sure people are aware of what's going on in Xinjiang in China. Thank you.